what you told him to read.
Okay, it's on here. Okay, okay. How did we get so much stuff on here from Monday night to
Oh,
Well, yeah, it's some signs on there. The TCEQ,
it's a mess,
the
man.
resolution,
6:30.
the capital resource.
6:30, I'm sorry.
That's the only thing.
Okay.
It's like from the
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, it's now 6:30. Our meeting is officially called to order. We will have an invocation and the pledge. Would you do us honors, Pastor?
Dear God, our Father in heaven, we thank you today for this privilege to assemble in these chambers again to do the business of this city. We pray that you would give us consensus, you would give us like minds, that we might do those things that are right and good in your sight, and that is for the best benefit of our city. We thank you. Bless us now as we deliberate the matters before us. In Christ's name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. We'd just like to start out by thanking all of you for joining us today. We appreciate you taking your time out to be here. At this time, as per our agenda, we're up to the comments from audience, and do we have any? Okay, we don't have any comments at this time. Did the council? No. Okay. I'm sorry, you said what?
Someone, I believe they signed up.
Where's your paper that you signed up on? Your outside?
Oh, you have to bring it. It's not,
There's no,
would you go and see where you placed it?
she may have signed in the
The
sign-in sheet, but not the request. to
Yeah, it's a request
There's a
sheet
form.
that's located out there. Okay, for those of you that aren't familiar with the procedure, it's the standard procedure. It's the sheet out on front where you sign and you bring it in and you turn it in. And at that point, you're recognized. And it's done at in a time limit. It has to be done before the council actually starts. We'll go ahead this time, and was anything on it? I mean, we ask that you put your information on.
I will.
Oh, did you just do this?
Ma'am, Mr. Howard.
Where did it come from? Just then? Okay, well, what we're gonna do, we won't allow at this meeting because it wasn't signed appropriately. You have to sign it before the council starts.
That's what I attempted to do at 5:30 this afternoon. I signed up. Mr. Calvert was there when I was signing up. I signed up on the wrong document. Everything.
Okay, what did you sign up on, ma'am?
I guess it's the attendance, whatever.
Okay, well,
So
that's,
I mentioned that I was gonna speak. And so if you're gonna do this, then I will have to.
okay, it's not a matter at liberty of what you would like to do. The procedure is simply that when you come in, you fill out the sheet, you hand it to the secretary, and you're allowed to speak. That's standard procedure, and that's the way it's done. And I'm right at this point, I'm not comfortable with changing the procedure.
And I understand that. I've spoken to hundreds of city council meetings before. Normally we just sign up or on the agenda. But having said that, since
Okay.
has happened, our
Okay.
organization will be on the
Okay.
next agenda.
Thank you. But the agenda and the way, you know, the process for the agenda. It's a request with the council approval or the mayor's. Okay. So make sure that procedure is in place. Thank you so much. Okay, with that in address, we're up to item number 1. Regular meeting, May 2, 2022. The approval of the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Yeah, I second that motion.
Been moved and second.
Oh, okay. I was sorry. I thought you were sorry. It's been moved in second. All in favor? Motion carries. Item number 2, Police Department Manpower and Criminal Incident Report for April 2022.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Administrator.
Chief Smith.
This is Police Department Manpower Criminal Activity Report for April of 2022. Have a total of 13 officers. We worked 2,606 hours. Responded to 564 calls for service. Worked 15 traffic accidents. And made 39 arrests. Issued 196 traffic citations. Completed 79 case reports. Responded to 31 alarm calls. 25 of those were false alarms, 6 of those were not. Below you'll see a breakdown. I'd like to call special attention to the thefts. That number is high. The majority of those theft calls come from Walmart. They have a new loss prevention employee that works there, and he has really been on it. So that's why you see those theft calls high. One other thing I would like to mention, we've been receiving several calls about the escaped inmate from Leon County. We have no reason to believe or no information to believe that he's in this area, but we encourage everybody to be watchful, keep your vehicles locked, because you never know when he could move this way. So, and that's what we're telling the public. We have no reason to believe that he's here. So I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Any question? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Chief.
Chief Smith.
Okay. Item number 3, Fire Department Monthly Activity and Status Report for April 2022.
Good evening, Mayor and council members,
Jason.
City Administrator. For the month of April, we had a total of 52 calls. Of those 52 calls, 31 of them was in the city response, and there was 21 in our county response area. There was no structure fires in the city or the county for that month. Our current manpower is, we got 18 members at this time. The report breaks down further in front of y'all. If y'all have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them for you.
So the 18, how is it standing? Is it standard? Is it up? Is it down?
Yes, it breaks down to as part-time and full-time, and of those 18, 13 of those are volunteers.
Okay, you volunteer?
I actually got an applicant tonight, a young gentleman over there tonight wanting to get on, so maybe our numbers will start moving up a little bit. So,
Thank you.
yes, ma'am.
Thank you,
Anything
Chief.
Thank you, Jason, for your report.
Okay, item number 4, report on the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality Violations and Public Notices.
Mayor and council, public, I have another opportunity just to talk to council and the public, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask at this time. We did send out notices by mail to every water customer in the City of Crockett this past week, and also issued a video on our website and on social media to help explain it a little bit better. So I don't want to take that much time tonight, but I did want to let council know once again the issues that were shown to us by TCQ. They have been corrected. We've added additional procedures that cover the chain of command from when that sample is collected, and have, while it's in our custody, we actually sign off on it just to be sure that, you know, if one person misses it, it's caught at the next level before we send it off to the labs. Those those would have helped on two of those violations, two of our most recent violations. And so we're also cleaning up two violations that they continue to stay on our record for public transparency, is essentially what it is, until we know that we've told everyone. The ones from 2018 and 2019, those have also been corrected by increasing our flushing in our system, by changing the way that we treat our water. And so just letting everyone know that these are operational errors that were revealed by TCQ, and they have been addressed completely.
One thing that, something flying
It's a
up
flag.
here.
It's a flag.
Okay.
How did this, when you're saying second in command on, how, was the person in command not doing their job, or?
Well, essentially, we added that layer. Initially, we had the person that would go out and take those samples, prepare them for sending off. That person was trained by his supervisor to do that job, but there were obviously some things that he missed in his training. And so when he sent those off to the labs, one of them was missing. One of the samples, for instance, was missing. That was one of them. The other one was, it was a 30-minute, outside of the 30-minute, there was a 6-hour bracket when that sample could be taken by the homeowner. And that homeowner turned it in. He checked it, everything was adequate, but he didn't realize that it was 30 minutes outside of that window of sampling. And so when it was sent off, that was something that he was not familiar with enough to catch it. And we realized that's a failure of ours to catch those things before it goes to the labs, because they don't turn around and say, hey, by the way, your labs are not right. Their job is to send it on to TCQ, if that's the way we sent it. So we've increased that level of custody, or the chain of custody, to where his supervisor has to sign off on them before they get sent to the lab, our utility superintendent. So it doesn't miss.
Okay, so
Those steps
yeah.
are not missed.
So the bottom line is the procedure, again, in terms of, they put the steps in for the procedure. The quality was actually done, but it wasn't done in a timely manner. And as a result, you got cited.
Yes, ma'am.
And the corrections are now in place so that it won't happen again.
That's what I was about to ask, how we took corrective action.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other?
So I apologize for the issues that we have to let the people know that, you know, I don't want them to ever second guess or doubt our competency and the quality of our water. So that's why we make extra steps to be transparent, to let y'all know that the water quality has not come back in any instance. Lead, copper, any of those rulings were all met.
I think it's very important that we know that we have drinking water, healthy drinking water. Okay. Did you have a question? Is that what it was?
Yes. About the car, do we do like a yearly training or give updated information on how to?
Yes, ma'am, we do. We have CE hours, which are required by the state, that we, continuing education hours that are completed by our personnel. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I just have a question about the chain of custody. Are you saying that the chain of custody was not done before those samples went in, or that it was missed? You said
No, it was not. It was not in our SOPs initially. So it was something else that we added to our procedures, our standard operating procedures, to increase the level of scrutiny to be sure that it's not missed in the future.
But typically, it should have been done before, and that should have never happened, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
At the time that it happened, did the public notified again?
Yes, ma'am.
Or is it just the time that you're notifying the public now?
The public
Yes, ma'am.
was-
Yes, ma'am. When it was brought to our attention, they gave us the ability to correct it by notifying the public and being transparent about it, and letting them know also the steps that we've taken to be sure that we've increased our scrutiny on it to where it does not happen again.
So she would have been involved in our water?
No, ma'am.
At the time of that?
No, ma'am. It was not a water quality issue. It was a procedure of sampling. Yes, ma'am.
Our water's good.
Anything else, John? Council have anything? Okay. Next to, item number 6, considering a, I'm sorry. Presentation and discussion on departmental capital requests for fiscal year 2023 budget.
Mayor and council, I have capital requests which have been submitted by department heads. This is one of the first steps in our process of building next year's budget, which starts October 2022. Just going into this, I'd like to make council aware that we have received our preliminary values from our appraisal district, and that's what I want to talk a little bit, just a minute on. Yeah. Our preliminary values from the appraisal district went from 302 million in appraised values to 330 million. That would typically, or in some people's mind, think that now values are more, we have that tax rate, now we're going to bring in additional revenues. We're not allowed to. So I want y'all and the public and council, just for when you're speaking with the public, just because the values went up does not mean that we will be able to bring in more or equally more revenue. We're going to have to lower our tax rates to be sure that we do not bring in any revenue. And in fact, the cap is that we cannot bring in more than 3.5% more revenue than we did last year. So whatever that revenue amount was last year, we're not allowed to take advantage, so to speak, of these increased values because homes are selling more, values are going up, so we can't apply that same tax rate to those homes. So what that equals, I'm sorry, that fly has really got his eyes on me. So what that equates to is using those numbers according to last year's budget that gave us the funds to operate this past year. If we hit that cap, whatever that max cap is of 3.5%, that would mean only an additional $49,000 in additional revenue that we would actually see from this. And so what we're going to have to do is significantly reduce our tax rate unless council wants to, as items are presented here tonight, if there's some items that this and as operational costs are going to inevitably increase, we're looking at close to 25 to 30% increase in fuel costs this coming year. So we have to equal that out with cuts in our budget to bring it down to where we can meet an operational budget that can be funded by revenues that do not require a vote. Otherwise, we're going to have to go for an election asking the public to allow us to have a higher tax rate to bring in more revenues for items A, B, and C. So if that does not happen, we have revenues looking, or projections of about 49,500 in additional property tax revenues if we just use that 3.5% or any there less of. Roughly $100,000 in sales tax. I really feel like it's a little bit too preliminary to count on. We have gotten a significant increase in sales tax this past year, but as inflation hits harder and gas and fuel prices hit, people are also going to check their budget a little bit better or differently, I feel like. So just because we saw it now, I don't want to count that as a constant for next year. But that being said, this year we're currently budgeted for $140,000 in fuel expenses, and we're already projected to exceed that to about $156,000. Next year, with I would believe a conservative outlook of 25 to 30%, that's going to increase by another $54,000. So that right there eats up more than even the amount that could come in from property values. Yes. So the other couple items that I want to talk about, we have been given notice that our garbage service, they came in November of 2020. So this November will be their second full year anniversary here. Last year, they did not request a rate increase. They did tell us when they went into contract with us, they would try not to hit us every year. This year, for obvious reasons with fuel, they are requesting, the CPI is about 8.5% increase. With inflation between now and November, they're looking at 12%. They did ask for, they said for now, they're only planning on asking for 7% increase in rate, in garbage rates.
John, I called over there today, asking Sonny about dump fees in that, you know, in the new concrete area they've got there.
Transfer station, yes, sir.
Just for a little 16-foot trailer, around $150 to dump that trailer, where it used to be like $30, you know, $40. So
I would like to
I was
look at
talking to
that.
Sonny about that today, and I'm just like, I can understand a little price increase for fuel, but
Right.
he actually come out and said that it was to pay for what they've done over there, basically, you know. And I
They're
don't
under
think that.
contract on their
I
fees.
don't think I don't think that's what it should be.
I'll look into that. They're under contract on fees.
We need to talk to them about that.
And that may come when they do.
That
come
would be
this.
for anybody, you know, to come over there and dump a small trailer. That is a massive fee for that, you know. And,
I agree. That would look roughly about from, right now, our residential garbage rate is $20.16, and it would look, that would, if it was 7%, you're looking at about $21.68. So, you know, dollar,
That's a reason.
With the increase.
the $1.50 a month increase for, once a week service. We did get notice from Houston County Water Control Improvement District, who we buy water from the lake. And they approved last night a 2% increase to pass on to us in our water rates that we charge, or that we pay them just to buy the water to pass it on to our customers.
Have they improved the quality of that water they're sending us?
Okay. The contract.
Yes, sir, for the most part.
Yeah.
They,
Or we still
they
to
have
do
been,
our-
we've been working in conjunction with them to improve that quality.
Yeah,
And we have made some strides
okay.
to where we're disinfecting the water the same way. Before, we were disinfecting it with two different processes, and that's what some of the issues were, which increased our cost, because it costs more.
So our cost increased to disinfect the water, and they're fixing to charge us more.
Another question.
One more note, the anticipated construction of a pool this year, we do have the funds for that. Those funds are already in hand. But using the last time we had a swimming pool, I know some of that could be made up in operational fees, you know, some daily fees and some party rental costs and stuff like that. But our net was about a $40,000 deficit then, you know, is about what it costs to provide that service. So I do believe with the additional things that we have in the park, we can probably make up a lot of that, but that's gonna be an additional cost on our next year's budget. So, just a few items to go into this with our capital request, knowing that with approvals, we're going to have to make up money or cuts elsewhere to come up with that money.
So we're gonna have a shortfall if we approve it.
If we approve everything, yes, sir, we're going to have to come up with,
On the capital.
so this right here, for instance, without any significant changes in rates, we should expect no more, on our general fund, no more than roughly $100,000. That's with adding the fuel in, but no other costs, because we don't know what insurance rates, workers' comp rates, we don't know what those are gonna look like. Roughly $100,000 in additional revenue, potentially using our sales tax, some of the increases that we've seen in sales tax. Any other approvals in our general fund is gonna have to be used out of our cash reserves. So if we do something, it'll be a one-time purchase using cash reserves. Any expenses towards our utility fund will be used in cash reserves or an increase in utility rates.
Are we receiving all of our sales tax from internet sales?
That's in the works. That was, so in 2020, when that bill was passed, there was lots of loopholes still in the system. A lot of Amazon, for one, several internet sales companies, they took the initiative and went ahead and started sending it to cities. There are still some cities or some revenue out there that is not being sent to cities. But we did see, since that bill was passed, to where sales tax goes to the point of delivery, not the point of production. So if you have a purse manufacturer in another city, wherever they sell that item to, they ultimately get the sales tax, not where it was produced. Where it was initially sold at the head of the chain, it's at the end of the chain. So that did increase.
Where it was bought at, in other words. Whoever buys the product.
Correct.
Yeah.
Whoever
Get the
buys the
sales.
product, know where it's bought from.
Right.
And so when that was done, that's where we saw some increase.
Yeah.
Other cities saw some decreases because if they had big production in their cities, they saw decreases because they lost that revenue. So there's big fights going on right now
Yeah.
on the state side. So we'll go through these real quick, and
I mean, the only thing I can say is everybody's having to tighten their belt. We're gonna have to tighten ours too.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's going up.
Looks like
on the-
$6 fuel.
On us. So we're going to have to tighten our belt too. If we gotta do some cutting, we gotta do some cutting. So, because taxes are going up on us, gas is going up on us, oil's going up on us, everything's going up. I mean,
yes, sir.
it's gotta stop somewhere. We're going to tighten our belt too. So,
We ready?
so
First, we have the first capital request, the fire department. Do you have time to?
As y'all aware, I've normally come in with council members saying we need more people, volunteers, and we're just not getting the volunteers anymore. But if I don't ask, I'll never get, so I'm here asking for a couple more paid firefighters. Some of the stuff, the rule, we follow Texas Commission on Fire Protection, and some of the mandates, which is not really old, but we gotta follow the rule of 2 in, 2 out. So if we go fight a structure fire, we're supposed to have 2 people that goes in and a RIT team, which is consists of 2 people outside to go rescue those firefighters or help them rescue a victim. The only thing that we can kind of get away with that 2 in, 2 out, if there's a response where we know, confirm somebody's in there, we can go in with 2. We don't have to have that RIT team. But if it's confirmed nobody's inside, we gotta wait till we have 2 more firefighters ready to go rescue those firefighters if they go down to save property. So it's one of those things we can get by with. If there's life in there, that's in our SOPs that we gotta follow the state. We can go in and save a life. But if it's just a structure fire, and for example, we had a structure fire, we had to ask for our neighboring department, Latexo. Of course, they got the same problem with volunteers, having people show up and wanting to volunteer. So a structure fire we had the other day, there was, had 4 guys on the first truck and 1 guy on the second truck for the water supply line. So, and one of those on the first truck, so you got 3 firefighters there, one's got to pump the truck, so he don't count for that 4th guy. The second engine that's coming in, he can count for that 4th guy once he lays the water line to our truck. But we're depending on Latexo in the past, we're just not having that, they're not having a lot of responders. So on that fire, we had what you consider 3-alarm fire. We had our department, Latexo department, we called Love Lady, and we also called Grapevine for mutual aid, because everybody had low manpower that day. Good thing is we was able to save the house. We got in there and knocked it down, no problem. But I just see in the future, if I'm not asking and letting y'all know that we need more people, that's probably going to have to be paid. Volunteerism as a whole in the world is dying. I mean, it's just, that's the way it is. If I could figure out how to get more volunteers, I could help out a lot of people. But we got lucky tonight, we got one there. But I won't take any more of your time, but I just wanted to explain to you why I'm asking for more people. Is on structure fires, minimum you need at least 10 to 11 people there to do a good rotation out. You go in, you get hot, you gotta come out, you gotta refurbish for about 20, 30 minutes. Then they can go back in with another air bottle. So in short, that's why I'm asking for more personnel. This is not gonna fix my problem, but it would be a step in the right direction to have more people available to respond to these calls. So if you have any questions with that, I'll be more than happy to ask.
I've spoken to you about that matter, Jason, and I'm in support of it. Of course, it's no secret that we're under budgetary restraints right now. But I know that the volunteer spirit, as you indicated, is a dying breed, and this city is going to have to move at some point toward a completely paid fire department. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm just one member of this council, but as far as I'm concerned, we'll be looking at the possibilities. I mean, it's not a dead issue because public safety is at hand as far as my perspective. And to make sure, because when I call fire department, I'd like for them to come and be able to help me with my fire and hopefully save my home or lives for that matter. So I take it very seriously, and hopefully in the midst of this up and coming budget, we may hopefully maybe find a place there where we might be able to do something. It'll take a joint effort from all of us in order to make that happen. But it's of grave concern to me. That's why I'm deliberating about it. And so we'll see what we can do.
And you also talked about the cross-training and sharing officers across the different departments. Were you talking full-time or part-time?
Full-time. And we can, that's something, if we get those, we can get them cross-trained. So maybe me and Clayton, we can have a public safety officer, which is fire, EMS, and whatever. When you're triple certified, it's hard to attract people here when they can be triple certified in Dallas and make $80,000, $90,000 a year.
More than that.
Yeah, I'm on the low end of that. So.
The 110 is roughly 33,000 salary a year plus benefits per person. Somewhere around 50, 55.
And there's also safer grants out there we're still gonna apply for this year. In the past, we didn't get them, so that's still something we're going after for safer grants, which will fund positions for us.
Do you think that's a viable option as far as assistance to cities?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your
Appreciate it.
Mayor, Council, I have the police chief here. It's been about 3 years since we purchased any police Tahoes, police vehicles. I know we initially purchased some that our goal was to enter into a process where we would rotate them while there was still some value left and before maintenance costs got too high. So we significantly reduced our maintenance costs by going in aggressively buying up vehicles. But after we replaced them all and we had a pretty good fleet, we've rode the benefit of that for a while now, and now we have some older ones, 100,000 plus miles on at least 3 of them. And so we either decide whether we want to run these considerably longer and start seeing the maintenance side of them after they're about 2014. So that's a 6-year-old, that's an 8-year-old, and a 7-year-old vehicle right there, the 3 that we're talking about. So just something that council needs to be aware of.
Mayor, council, You know, if you walk out in our parking lot and look at our patrol fleet, you think, we've got a big fleet, we've got some nice looking vehicles, and we do. But what you have to take into consideration is what's under the hood, your axles, your tires. Like the city administrator said, we have 3 with over 100,000 miles. I'll be the first to sit up here and tell you I asked for 3. Do I need 3? Absolutely not. Would 3 be ideal and get rid of those oldest 3? Absolutely. But I think as long as we move towards at least replacing one of those oldest ones and keeping that fleet rotating, I think we will not set ourselves up for failure later on where we're having to purchase 3 or 4 at one time. Overall, the truth is our fleet's not in bad shape, except for the older vehicles that have the higher mileage. We have 2 other vehicles that are older units. They don't have as high miles as some of the other ones, but they have a longer maintenance record. Sometimes you get one vehicle that may run 300,000 miles with no issues, and you may get one that runs 30, and you're replacing the transmission and everything in it. So, like I said, we ask for 3. We'll be grateful for whatever we get, even if we don't get anything. I understand pretty tight constraints this year. The prices on them are, as everything else, ridiculous. When we first started buying Tahoes, we were looking at the $50,000 range. That jumped up to an average of $66,000 to $68,000 just for a Tahoe to be delivered here, ready to go on patrol after it's insured. And our equipment in those Tahoes is nothing that's necessarily top of the line. It's the basic equipment that the officers need for their daily patrol. So, like I said, we asked for 3. If we don't get 3, we understand. We'll be happy with whatever y'all choose.
Did we replace the one that got hit out on 19?
We did.
We replaced that with a new one?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Insurance did pay for a portion of that,
Okay.
but since
it
it had,
replaced.
yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Chief.
Mayor and Council, as we talked over the last couple of months, we know we have to have that balance. We're having recruiting, we're having retention problems. We do know where that money comes from, so that's where council and the public that they represent can help us move forward, whether we want to retain quality employees and recruit quality employees to do the work that we need. I do think that we need to have a more concerted effort towards knowing what our employees actually need, instead of just throwing numbers against the wall and hoping we can attract people, but actually seeing what, as we talked about earlier in this year, is what other cities like us pay their employees, what other cities that we can compare to. Are we under the scale or above the scale? Are we leading? And if we need to at least lead that charge. But we know that we can't compare ourselves to a Frisco Police Department or, you know, a city down in the Houston Metroplex for their public works employees. We know we're not, but ultimately we're competing with those, because the people that we're losing, that's where they're going. They're going to those bigger cities and doubling their salary. So to some degree, we're going to lose some of those people. We'll never be able to get there. But what can we pay our people for a good salary? What can they expect from us as a city? Compare ourselves to other cities with comparable populations, with comparable tax rates, comparable industry. Figure out where we actually need to be. I know Houston County has also completed a salary survey, and I'm really concerned that we may even lose employees there if they increase salaries more. That we've already lost some employees to Houston County. So my request is, moving forward, that we know where we're going, or at least know where we want to go when we try to decide what increases in salaries for our employees are needed. Using the salary study that was done, presented, we have not gone out for procurement, so I do not know what that's going to cost. but using the one done for Houston County was in the neighborhood of $30,000. So I think before we come back to council with increases requested of 5%, of 10%, I know it's been 5 years until this past year that council did finally was able to give a COLA to our people. So before we come back, I would like to have this under our belt. And that's why I'd like to bring that to council's attention.
John, when you evaluate, for example, your equipment operators, are they all just equipment operators under one umbrella, or is there different statutes for different equipment operators?
Currently, we do not have an employee or a salary bracket. We do have one, but not officially adopted by council, that's saying that this is where our hiring rates are after 5 years, after 10 years. This is where your brackets are, your ranges, salary ranges. We do not have that. We do have a range for those employees, but a lot of those are driven by performance.
Well, for example,
and
a
experience.
tractor operator shouldn't make what a maintainer operator makes.
Correct.
You
Right.
know, I mean, it's
And
just-
that's where it's driven
they're way
by
more valuable.
capabilities or experience, whether they can drive
Right.
a road maintainer versus a
And
bush hog.
We need,
Right.
yeah, exactly. We need to have, I think we need to have that scale there.
Sure.
We need to probably work on that.
Yes, sir.
That's in there.
Yes, sir. And that's what this salary study would come in and help us develop that. This is what should be expected for a city of your size. This is what cities in our region are paying. This is what cities that we can relate to, and not a selective few cities. We have lots of needs in the street department. You just brought up our road maintainer. It's a 1982 road maintainer, but we are still operating it to some degree. We're having issues with it, but the one that we're really needing help on, and right now it's parked in the middle of the road and it's heavy, and so we're having to get a tow truck over there to pull it, but it's in the park along the backside where the splash pad is. It's stuck over there in the middle of the road. They were able to get it off, but the motor, and it's frozen up. It's a 1989 Bomag that we bought brand new, and it's got lots of problems. We're asking we need an asphalt compactor. We need a roller in order to continue doing the street repairs that we're trying to get done. That one is not serviceable any longer. We went out for some bids, found some government contract prices for one that's comparable. It's this one here, and it's $48,354 for government contract price. Our next biggest need is dump trucks. We have several dump trucks, but they're all extremely old and worn out. And so normally, when we get one running, another one or two are in the shop. And so we bought the 1991 and the 1992, we bought used from the federal surplus. They were military dump trucks that we currently use. The green one and the blue one that you see running around town, we bought in 2000. We bought it for $3,500 a piece. We bought them for $3,500 a piece. So we've gotten quite a bit of use out of them. Some good life. But we're really needing to replace those. We're short. Lots of times our jobs are shut down because we do not have a dump truck.
Didn't we get a dump truck from the county
Yes, sir.
just a couple of years ago?
Yes, sir. It was also a 1998 model dump truck, and that's one of the ones the two dump trucks that we have that are decent are the 1998 one that we bought from the county for $6,000 that they wanted to get rid of. We have pretty good mechanics. They worked a miracle on them, but it's having some problems. We're doing our best to keep that one on the road, and then we bought a Bluebell, remanufacture a Bluebell truck. Those are the two good trucks that we have right now.
So would you say that we are starting to have an increase in our maintenance for the,
Yes, sir.
equipment.
What hurts us is not as much the maintenance, but the downtime. When we go out for a job and that truck goes down, then we have an operator on the side of the road and an excavator. And that's our biggest, when we're doing our chip seal jobs, we have to run at least 2 of these trucks back to back to lay the chip rock down. So if we're only on one truck, the oil's drying on the road, we can't get chip rock on it fast enough. Those are some of the big issues that we're running into that are really hindering us. Other than that, we feel like on the street side, we can make it.
So on the dump truck, how much you're asking for?
Oh, I thought
No.
I'm sorry, I didn't scroll it down. That is for another Bluebell truck. We call them the Bluebell trucks. There's a company down in north of Madisonville that does these refurbished jobs, and they get this one here is I think I put it on there, but it's a I did not put it on there. It's a 2010 or 2011 model Bluebell truck. Bluebell does a really good job at servicing their trucks, so they usually have a lot of good life on them. Most of these trucks are somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 to 200,000 miles on them.
You know, having a truck driving background, you gotta be very careful with what kind of truck you get as to what the depth, whether or not it's handling that DEF fuel or not.
Oh, yes. These are pre-def.
They're pre-DEF.
Pre-def. The last one we got, and that's what we're trying to keep on the roads is the pre-def.
Just replacing the filter is like $1,000,
Yes, sir. So we're looking at about 65, if we were to trade one of ours in, probably at best. Our next one, these are on our utility side. This is our wastewater. Up until now, we've been on general fund. We've been on the general fund, which is funded by sales tax and property taxes. This is a utility fund. And so, we only put the ones that we really need to maintain compliance and to meet our operational needs. We've been this past year in lots of situations where we need a vacuum. Most cities have a vacuum truck. They make vacuum trailers though, 500-gallon vacuum trailers to where we can pull lift stations down, pull out manholes that have backed up. So for us to get in there to make the repair, when it's backed up, we have to pull the material out that's in these manholes, the sewer, and we need a vacuum trailer. We've been contracting with a couple other contractors around here, and it's extremely expensive. Sometimes several times a day, we're using a contractor to pull for us, and and we need it when we need it quick before overflows happen and things of that nature, before things come out in people's houses. We need a vacuum trailer. That's what we're putting on here. I'll look for some used ones, most used ones. If the city did not have the money for a big vacuum truck and they bought a trailer, they're probably going to use every last bit of life out of it. And so I didn't find any good used ones for a new one.
You almost have to have a truck that has the pump on it with the trailer. You know, it's a two-component deal.
Yeah. So for a completely complete unit, we're looking at $23,900 for this, for a vacuum trailer. It would look something about like that, kind of like our jet rotor trailer that we currently have, but it pulls a vacuum instead of pressure on it, instead of a pressure line.
That's a damage preventer.
Skip one.
Yes, ma'am. On purpose.
Skip that.
Our next need, we're under current TCQ notice. We have to repair this. We have pending enforcement if we do not repair our sewer digester. We have a digester that looks like this out at our sewer plant, and it's currently down. Our aerator's down, and the pump that pumps it to the drying beds, this is the last section of treatment before it goes to drying beds, before we get dry material that we can haul off. It's then it would be just a Class B organic waste that's just a dry that we can load up in dump trucks. But before it goes to there, this is that separator, where it separates the fluids from the organic solids. And it is currently out of service. It's a 1970s build digester. Soon, we need to replace it. For now, there's a way that we can put this aerator in. It's a portable aerator that we can bring and set into, instead of rebuilding the entire aerator, which is somewhere, it's above $250,000 to rebuild that structure. So right now, we would be looking at about $71,000 and still get some considerable amount of life out of it.
20 years. Okay. Some things we know how to tell.
This is, what are they?
Administrative.
I mixed these up, sorry. I pulled one and I did not delete the top part, sorry. We have a need for deraggers. They're called deraggers. Highly technical terminology there, but basically it senses when a pump has rags that are backing up into it, and it senses it and throws it into reverse, pushes those rags back out and tries it again. And tries it again. Those rags will lock down. We're pulling pumps right now. A lot of times when we have an overflow situation, when our lift station, especially at our lift stations or our influence stations, when those back up, we will pull out rags with backhoes because it's slowly, completely clogged up, and it never reverses it to just suck one through at a time to where we get them in our plants. But it's just a surprising amount of rags that people are flushing, and I don't know how they make it. I mean, just entire laundry baskets of clothing and rags and disposable wipes. They are not disposable. They are not.
Yeah, they're not disposable.
They are not disposable in your toilet. They should go in the trash, but they do not disintegrate like they say they are. And we're having lots of problems with this. To replace, for our 5 main pumps at our influence stations and our lift stations, it would cost about $33,000 to put deragger sensors on it to throw our motors into reverse as soon as it gets into a bind.
That's a most.
The last thing that we need at our wells and our wastewater treatment plants are chlorinators, a pump service crane. These are also enforcement issues under TCQ that we need to get addressed. We truthfully probably need to get it addressed this year if they can push it off and help us until October. But if not, we need to, some of these purchases are going to have to be made this year because we're under enforcement deadlines if we do not get these replaced. And like I say, it's a belt conveyor. Whenever our bar screen filters out initial waste in the stream, any kind of trash that's in the sewer system, it filters it out and pulls it out of the water. And right now it's going on the ground because a dumpster will not fit underneath it. And so this conveyor, it drops on the conveyor and then dumps it in there because it cannot touch the ground. It's not supposed to. Chlorinator pumps, we lost some in the freeze, and a couple of them are past their service life. We can't service them any longer, so our utility guys are requesting chlorinator pumps. I don't know how council, it's up to y'all, how y'all want to guide me and as we build this budget.
Within this request that you're considering here, is there a fund that we have been kind of preparing for this blow?
That's our cash
that will
reserve.
take some of stop some of the bleed, if you will?
The only two sources of revenue that we have at this time, other than in our budget, is our, like I said, our cash reserves. or the funds that we brought in that we have through our ARPA funds. The ARPA funds, which we're trying to put towards water, sewer, infrastructure. That's where we're putting that monies towards. That kind of address a lot of the one-time purchases, like council decided to purchase the police department laptop computers and ticket writers with that fund. So we can use that fund, but it's also going to borrow from, or take from money that we can use towards water and sewer main replacement. But those are the two sources of funds that we can do without impacting our budget.
But those mandates that are tied to, the ones that come with the mandates, those are the ones that we're gonna have to address up front, pretty much.
To the biggest degree, I know I don't even have to ask council for approval for some of those things. They have to be done, but I do want y'all to know some of the expenses and some of the things that are still coming at us soon. So they're gonna require budget amendments and cash reserves expenses. Utility rate increases to help cover future, because our plants are getting old. And if we do not keep money for those replacements when they're coming, our clarifiers right now, both of our clarifiers, if we look at those, they're $500,000 a piece.
Well,
And
I
they're
thought our
extremely old.
water revenue, wouldn't we put money back
Some, yes, sir.
for future problems?
Yes, sir.
In our water department?
Yes, sir. And we have, like I said, we have, but as those expenses come out of there, we're not putting enough. We are putting money aside that we haven't been putting aside before.
Right.
But the age that this equipment is getting, we're not putting enough, knowing that we're gonna have these expenses, they're inevitable. We should have enough money in reserves that when those expenses come due, we have cash, we don't go out in debt. And, so your utility rates should equal the expenses operational now and the cost that it's gonna take to replace it when that lifespan ends, for those hard assets. And so we did really increase that significantly. This past year, we've been putting about $100,000 to $150,000 aside, but it's a drop in the bucket when it comes to what really needs to be put aside, more along the lines of $300,000 to $400,000 a year being put aside to replace our big asset infrastructure, our treatment plants. Like the replacements that we did on the water side, those were going out for debt. The USDA loans that we did to replace our water storage tank on College Hill, we had to, and we had no, if we would have been doing this for a while now, we could have done the water storage on College Hill across from Hilltop, that water storage tank. We went out for debt. We incurred debt to build
I
that.
thought the water district paid that.
That was the USDA loan.
Okay. So I thought they put that in.
That and when we refurbished our our elevated water towers, we fixed those up. Those were all
The
USDA.
water district wasn't supposed to have done that? Did
It was-
they say they would?
No, sir. It was in our contract that we assumed those water storage tanks. They paid out of that that was that's been a few years now.
Yeah, it's been-
There was several $1 million, and they paid, I want to say it was a couple $100,000 towards it.
I thought they were gonna do that.
Well,
So just letting council know,
Yeah.
one, that we have debt, we have rate increases coming towards us, that we know is fixing to hit us this coming, and actually, the water district, they go up on their rates in September. Our budget's not till October 1. So we're gonna be hitting increases in our budget this year that we didn't even anticipate.
so we're gonna have to, the bottom line, considering all that we have taken in, we're gonna have to prioritize, we're gonna have to scrutinize this budget and see where, there's a lot of capital requests that are just not gonna be met. I mean, everything in the year of COVID and inflation, everything is going up. And we're just gonna have to do what we can on those things that are necessary and prudent that we do. And,
And some of it are just gonna be driven by necessity and mandates.
I mean, they have to.
The have-tos, yeah. That's gonna kind of set it. Okay, will we have anything else before us?
I don't have any more bad news this time.
Well,
The bearer
I mean, we're going to pondering, so,
It's up to council if they want to make actions based on, hey, I would like to see these items prioritized, or if it's at this time you want me to continue working on, because like again, council does need to know, and the public needs to know, just some of our more pressing needs, but also as we build our budget, there's still some unseen things that we do not know. We do not know the rates for insurance or workers' comp. We do not know what we're going to be paying for gas this time next year. So a lot of these are just some difficult assessments. So I just want
Yeah.
council to be aware of what
I know
some of our
one
needs are.
thing, that I don't wanna keep telling people that we're gonna fix their streets, and we can't fix their streets because we've got broken down equipment every other week, you know, and we'll have to address that, or we'll have to let someone else fix streets, you know, basically is where we're headed, you know.
Well, I think we got the street deal fixing to be with the
That will-
loan.
Well,
That will help.
partial, yeah.
That will help.
That'll be a
It'll
lot.
help,
chunk of
it'll
roads.
help the major stuff,
I
you
mean,
know.
I think right now, we
We
need to
gotta
look
focus
at,
on the diesel.
we need to look at, what's mandated, TCEQ, stuff like that.
prioritize.
Whatever's mandated, and like I said, we got a cut too. I'm having a cut. Y'all having a cut. We got a cut too. So whatever's mandated,
It should be the first thing we look
yeah.
at.
Any other comment? Anything else, Jim?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you so much
Handwriting
for
on the
your,
wall.
yes,
For
thank
sure.
you for that report. And we're up to item number, which one are we?
Number 6.
Number
I
6.
believe it is.
Consider and approve a resolution of the City Council of the City of Crockett selecting a grant writer administrator to assist the city in this application and administration of a contract, if awarded, from the Texas Department of Agriculture, TDA, Community Development Block Grant Program, CDBG, for downtown revitalization and Main Street programs.
Mayor and council, we have, went out for procurement. We only had one response for grant writer and administration for this grant. This is the grant that has been funding our downtown street sidewalks, parking lot for our downtown area. I believe they said parking lots, we probably burned them on the last couple of, they spent a lot of money in our last couple of grants, so sidewalks, ADA access is still a big key for them. I was wanting to put, we've acquired two additional parking lots to help ease the pain on our downtown businesses, and try to develop those, but at this time, that grant probably will not pay for parking lots. And I do have Ms. Sherry Roberts here. She's with Trailer and Associates. They were the one that responded to our procurement request. Do you have a number on the amount that this grant was?
It's maximum $500,000.
Maximum of $500,000. Last year it was $425. This year it's $500. And we match it with a 10% match.
You get full points if you match it with 15%.
15%. We get full points if we match it with 15%.
Does that match in money or match in kind or?
Some can be made up in kind, but mostly cash. These are the things that, as we built budgets in the past, I have made a point to set as much money aside. Whenever we can double that money or triple it or quadruple it, grants is where We need to spend as much money as we can. And so, you know, if we spent $75,000 towards a $500,000 project, and when we do those, we also replace some water lines underneath those sidewalks. We're taking full advantage of,
Once they bust them up.
once we're tearing it up, let's make it right. So if council approves, we will procure, my recommendation would be to procure Trailer and Associates to complete this,
This is the
Grant
application
application.
that has to be turned in by like July or something like that, right? What's-
Downtown, I believe, is July 8th.
I think that's right.
Yes.
July 8th. So as soon as we do this tonight, they will help us in procurement of the engineering, and then we submit a plan, a project to them. And of course, there's lots of work. Then there's other hearings and things of selection of certain sidewalks. How do we come to, there's a process in getting that. We're not going out just handpicking certain areas. And so we'll keep council involved in that as we move forward. But I'd like to recommend,
I'll make a motion, we approve Taylor and Associates.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second, all in favor? Motion carries. Okay, item number 7, consider and approve a resolution of the City Council of the City of Crockett selecting a grant writer administrator to assist the city in its application and administration of a contract, if awarded, from the Texas Department of Agriculture, TDA, Fire, Ambulance, and Service Truck Fund, FAST, for emergency response and special services to rural areas.
Mayor and council, we have an opportunity. We have a truck, a fire truck that we purchased in 1994, who is really showing its age, and we have an opportunity to apply for this grant. And this is actually a very good percentage in the grant to match ratio, and it's up to $750,000. $750,000, and the match was what? 10%.
And I apologize, I don't have the new guidelines in here. because-
All these were last minute resolutions that we had to put in to meet some deadlines, and so we're not completely. This right here will basically allow us to go out and select a grant writer to submit this grant. I'll be bringing it back to council for further approval on the matches when that time comes. $45,000 for a $750,000 grant. And so my recommendation would, and we had one response to that request, and it was Trailer and Associates.
I make a motion, we'll go with Trailer and Associates on this.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Do we have to wait for him to come? Motion carries. Can you get the vote? But it's all right. Okay, item number 8, consider and approve a resolution of the City of Crockett, Texas, authorizing the submission of a hazard mitigation grant program, HMGP, application through the Texas Division of Emergency Management, and authorizing the mayor and the city manager to act as the city executive officers and authorize representatives in all matters pertaining to the city's participation in the DR 4485 hazard mitigation grant program.
Mayor and council, we have two projects that we're submitting through this grant program. One is for tornado sirens or early warning systems across the city. We currently do not have a way, we do not have sirens. We do not have any kind of early warning sirens. We do have an old one on top of the fire station that is not operational. And so we're really asking, especially with the last few disasters that we've had, and the recent hit this year alone of tornadoes, we know how quick it can hit us, and we need to let our public be aware of what's going on. And the other one is for repairs of these storm creeks that go down East Houston, past the old jail, on both sides of the old jail, and tie into West Houston. They were built in the 1930s by Civil Corps or conservation group set up by the president at that time, and that was to try to help spur the economy along, give people jobs. They were giving them government jobs to go out and do lots of Army Corps of Engineers work, creek work. So they built these creeks with armament out of flagstone and mortar, and those they have deteriorated. They're collapsed, and we're getting more and more where the creek sides are falling in. We're trying to build them out, but we're having lots of debris being washed down the creek, backing up, causing flooding problems. And both of these projects would amount to $839,250.
That's your grant amount.
That's the total grant amount. And our contribution of a cash or in-kind services would be $93,250. And I'm asking for council to allow us, by this resolution, to submit for this. This funding is coming from post-COVID. Every time that a disaster is declared, funds are set aside into a hazard mitigation. So if a disaster happened, money is set aside that if this disaster was to ever happen in the future, communities would be better prepared. And so it's a separate portion of disaster funding that we're allowed to submit this through.
I make a motion we approve the resolution.
Okay, motion's on the floor.
A second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor? Motion carries.
What is currently wrong with the siren over here now?
It doesn't work.
It fell apart. The inside, the bearings on it. That and it doesn't meet standards.
You could hear it all over the city.
If you're outside, the standards, the FEMA standards for that are set like at a certain decibel rating that you can hear. It has to be a certain decibels at your home. So if it's here and you're on the outskirts of home or
And you can
in a
hear
low
it.
line area, it would reach up to, I believe it's like 120 decibels outside, so you can hear it inside your home. That's up to council. Like I say, if council does not want us to submit this, it comes up reoccurringly
Yeah. I don't know what I'm
how we
saying
need
is,
early warning sirens,
I mean,
but.
that's been over there for, you
And the
can
other
hear
thing
it
is,
everywhere.
so the new system would be operated by as imminent threat hits our areas as set by NOAA or the weather. Yeah. So as those when they hit tornado on the ground in your vicinity, they automatically send a signal to it, activates it. Some things that we don't even know, unless we have a storm spotter running around and then have to run to the station to turn it on. These right here are activated by radios wherever you're at in town.
I know I'm working on a house right now that a lady got thrown around in her house that has not a clue that anything was fixing to happen to her, and she was in pretty rough shape for a while.
Well, the motion is already.
Yeah.
It's
I
in-
just asked
Just
a
additional.
And that was just
more
addition.
information.
Yeah, no, they had asked about it a lot,
Yeah.
so, yeah. Okay, okay, that ends that. Item number 9, consider and approve appointment of board members and ex-officiant members to the Crockett Economic and Industrial Development Corporation. Did you want to come in?
Okay, Mayor, I must admit I wasn't aware that we were going to have this on the agenda today. We have been in conversation with our board for a recommendation to you to ensure that we had a diverse board. from representatives of our community. There are two names that we have tossed over, but we have not had a chance to finalize the conversation with them at this time. But if there is someone else that you guys have that you feel already have that you feel would be able to fill this position tonight, I understand that. But we were trying to ensure the diversity of our board and people.
Speak a little bit into the mic here,
Okay.
Jason. Yeah.
Is that better? Okay. The diversity of our board is very important to our board members, and we were looking at some candidates to fit that bill. The conversations I have had with the board members today was that they're still doing the outreach to these two gentlemen to confirm their active wish to participate. They have interest, but they hadn't finalized the conversation with them, so I was not able to get a confirmed name as of today. But as I said, if there is someone that you have already in mind, we'll work with them as well. But that was my intention to hopefully have someone prepared to present next week to you, but I really wasn't aware until I got a text today that the meeting was today, so that's why.
So you were not aware, as I understand?
No.
That
I got the text.
considering
John-
appointments?
John, about noon today, that we had to come up with some name.
But wasn't it on it was on Monday's agenda though, right?
You weren't at that meeting, so we pulled it off that agenda.
Oh, okay.
I put it, it's been on the agenda, we
Oh, it was
postponed it a
on.
couple times because we didn't have a name. And this last meeting, since I wasn't expecting the mayor here, who's, by bylaws supposed to nominate the person, I took it off the
Oh,
agenda, so I'll put it back on the agenda.
Okay, but the fact that we are aggressively trying to pin down someone.
Do y'all have someone that you'd like to recommend the board is currently serving?
The two names that we're talking to right now include Bill Jones and Chris Ramirez. And in both those cases, there was an intent to have a final conversation with them and my board president to ensure that they are committed to serve on the board.
Okay,
Is it Christopher Ramirez?
Yes.
okay. What you do always have the option of the ex officio, that if the board position is filled, that you can continue to include them on the board by way of ex officio.
Right.
My concern is that the recommendation I was prepared to make, simply because it had been, we had talked before.
Right, right.
And I'm really concerned that the expedience of it, that it be filled. I just have a problem with the board, just so. And I was comfortable with I was very comfortable with my recommendation that I'm about to make.
Okay.
But like I said, it doesn't limit you from, I think it works more productively if you have more ex officio, so that you can immediately move them up.
Agreed.
Into the slot. But I don't think it's expedient to keep kind of spreading it out a little bit. I mean, too long. I think it just need to be filled. So tonight, I would like to make a recommendation of Keisha Thomas to the Board of Economic Development. It's up for, that's my recommendation, is up for the council.
Is it just one, or is there two?
Oh, that's,
going?
I'm not.
Warren
the
Taylor and Colin
Chair, they have
Castleberry.
one position on the board that's
It's
open.
just one?
They only have one position for the board, the other one are ex officio.
Wade
They were gonna
Thomas
make.
took that position.
Wade took
Wade
one.
took one board,
Right, and
one
then-
member, that I need as officiant and a board member.
Right, okay.
But I was just gonna make one for the board
And-
member.
And you had two recommendations, but y'all have not even,
Well, they had an initial conversation, but they wanted to have a follow-up with them, and I thought the meeting was actually going to be next week, so I was hoping to have that conversation and be presenting on Monday. I thought the meeting was gonna be on
Did,
Monday.
Mr. Jolly express any?
He's not eligible.
he doesn't live
He can
in-
only be an ex officio
Gotcha.
because
He
he's
doesn't
not
live in
the
town.
Okay.
county.
But, you know, the idea of expediency, I understand. We are able to move forward with the fifth member. I'm willing to work with whoever we can put in that position, but these were two that we were targeting after some conversations with them, and my board members were focusing on trying to recommend from one of those people. But since the mayor's brought this other person to the table, at least, and I know Keisha also, so, you know, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, it's on the, can we get a motion? Okay, there's no motion. Okay, so it dies for lack of a motion, right? Okay. Well, you get another opportunity because someone is willing to put the motion to the
Okay.
floor.
Now, when is the board
Okay.
meeting next Monday?
June
Well,
6th is the next
June
meeting.
6th?
It's
Okay.
announced, and the reason that one changed was because it wasn't formal.
Oh, okay, okay. All right.
So you will have those finalized,
Yes, in fact, I'm
and-
trying to have it finalized by tomorrow.
okay.
That was my intention.
Okay, if there's, let's see, if there's not anything, the council has nothing else to say?
Okay.
What was it?
I would ask John.
Those are the two applications that we received.
And
And I had the option of selecting and making a
right, I was just
recommendation,
wondering,
okay.
I didn't
Yeah.
know who it was.
Okay. Yeah, I had them. Okay, anything else? Well, can we get a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.